Yes, sir.
Welcome, Governor. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Paducah Community College. In a moment, it will be my high honor to introduce our governor, a man for whom I have the deepest respect and regard. Today, the governor comes to speak to us about his plan for higher education in Kentucky. And Governor, may I say at the outset that this region has followed your path and your plan carefully. We cheered at your inauguration when you said, quote, "I challenge the institutions of higher education to throw off the shackles of the past, use the instruments of modern science, and emulate the techniques of progressive businesses." We cheered because we thought you were telling them our plan. You said we must emulate the businesses and change the way we transfer knowledge. And you said, yes, we need money, but money alone will not solve the problems. We cheered again when you said, "I challenge you to articulate a new vision, propose a new method, and show me a system more devoted to innovation than it is to turf, more concerned about the big picture than it is about its own place in that picture." We cheered because we believed that that was our message too. And we've been encouraged every time that you have reiterated your support for the Chamber of Commerce position here to bring new jobs, great jobs, to Western Kentucky. And we were pleased when you said that post-secondary education, especially community colleges and technical schools, would be a focal point in your administration. We were pleased with all these things because we believed that the top executive in Kentucky now saw what we saw. We have forged powerful partnerships with the Chamber of Commerce and all of our local businesses. And we in Kentucky Tech formulated a pilot 1+1 degree that now provides seamless education from high school through an associate degree and beyond. And we overcame great odds to do that, and now every other community college in Kentucky has applied to offer that new degree. And we've kept the Council on Higher Education informed all along the way. In fact, we followed its strategic plan. So when your plans and promises and program came out, you gave us great hope. For years, we had presented all the facts and all the data and all the rational arguments, but those facts did not get us very far. But now your plans and your sincere pleas on behalf of the people of Kentucky told us that finally we have someone who would and could do something about what we wanted to do and was telling our story. But Governor, when you included in your higher education plan the removal of the community colleges from the University of Kentucky, we were stunned. Virtually everything that had been done to create what you and we want for Kentucky had been built upon a UK foundation. UK had blessed and fostered our work. UK had given us the courage and, yes, the pride. How about them cats tonight? Yes, UK gave us the pride to persist when others stood in our way, and gave us the necessary educational resources to do the right things for our students. Governor, we are very supportive of your focus on higher education, but see no aspects of the separation plan to be positive or useful or necessary. I will not recite a litany of negatives, which I'm sure you have heard some as you've gone around the state and talked to community colleges. Instead, Governor, we look forward to your remarks today and to the upcoming dialogue on higher education, which you have so graciously and appropriately invited. Ladies and gentlemen, to present the Governor of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, Paul Patton.
Thank you, Dr. O'Hara, and thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming out here this afternoon and giving us an opportunity to discuss the future of Kentucky, because that's exactly what this subject is. This office of governor carries with it awesome responsibility. Not only have you entrusted upon me the day-to-day administration of your affairs, but you've also elected me to lead this Commonwealth to newer and greater heights, to come together with programs and proposals for your consideration and ratification or rejection, that in my judgment would lead us to a better future. And by definition, that means that I must propose change. We can't get better if we continue to do the same thing we've always done, the same way we've always done it. By definition, we have to change. Now, there's good change and bad change, and we as a people have to be able to understand the difference. But change we must, and change will bring disruption, and change will bring opposition if it is meaningful. If it were easy and obvious, it would have been done long ago. If it is going to be significant, then it is difficult to identify and even more difficult to implement. But it is my determination to bring about change in Kentucky. If you followed my campaign at all, and I know that many of you did, I talked about change. And I talked about a brighter future for Kentucky. I talked about a railroad that led to that brighter future, and a railroad that had two rails. One was jobs and the other was education. Couldn't get there on one alone, had to have both. And so as I assumed this office and as I began to go into detail about exactly how that we would achieve the goals that I had laid out and that you had elected me to pursue, I first looked at the business climate in Kentucky. Because in order for us to create jobs for people, and make no mistake about it, Paul Patton's first priority is high quality, safe, secure jobs for our people. But for almost all of us, that means we have to have a company to provide that job. We have to have a company that can be profitable and prosperous in a competitive world economy. And as I looked at the business environment in Kentucky, I saw a lot of good, but I saw a problem. And that was a problem with the workers' compensation system that many workers felt was too slow to respond, that many workers felt cost them too much to get their just due, that many workers felt did not compensate them adequately when they were severely injured, and that many people recognized excessively compensated people that hold no real significant injury at all. And that system was costing our businesses exorbitantly and causing them to be less competitive and costing Kentuckians jobs and wages. And so I determined to address that subject. And after careful, in-depth personal research, I found out that to cure that problem, I would have to propose programs that adversely affected people that were very close to me, personal friends of long standing, political allies that had worked long and hard for my election, financial supporters that had contributed financially to allow me to take my message to the people of Kentucky. People without whom I would not have held the office I hold. And so I had a choice to make. Would I, like so many before me, look the truth in the face and find out that it was such awesome change, that it would engender such powerful enemies, that I would put another Band-Aid on the problem, declare victory, and move on to another subject? or would I do what was obvious needed to be done? And so I did propose to the General Assembly and explain to the people in the General Assembly, and they did adopt a comprehensive, fundamental change, not a patch job, not a Band-Aid, but a fundamental change that I'm confident will serve this state better. Now I'm faced with a similar dilemma. I have looked into higher education more deeply than any subject that I have ever studied in my adult life. I have seen the duplication. I have seen the wastefulness. I have seen the turf battles. I have seen how that the taxpayer's dollar is not being spent as efficiently as it could. Yes, there's a lot of good about our system of higher education, but it is not perfect, and it needs change if it's going to serve our people better. It is my job to listen to as many of the experts as I possibly can, and certainly I've made myself available to almost anybody, everybody in their groups that have a particular perspective on this situation. Almost anybody who is knowledgeable about the facts of higher education comes to that knowledge through some bias because they've been associated with some institution or some particular element, and that gives them a bias. And of course, I have to filter out the bias and try to go directly to the pertinent facts. I have to filter out my own biases because, you see, the University of Kentucky is my alma mater. The University of Kentucky is the institution that allowed me to get the education that allowed me to become the person that I am. The University of Kentucky is the institution to which I entrusted the education of two of my children. The University of Kentucky is an institution that I think so much of that I have made substantial contributions every year for the last 25 or so years. I've contributed close to $200,000 to that university, and I say that not to brag, but to give you a perspective of how much the University of Kentucky means to me and how devoted that I as an individual Kentuckian am to that institution. But as your governor, I cannot be the advocate of the University of Kentucky. I have to be the advocate for all of Kentucky, every region, every institution, every individual, every taxpayer, every business. So as we have studied this situation, I come to make recommendations that some supporters of the university find to be adverse to its interest, and I respectfully disagree. Let me share with you just briefly some of the things that I have discovered, and then we'll try to get into a discussion as quickly as possible. There are basically three elements of higher education as I understand them. One is postgraduate doctoral research type of an educational environment designed to develop new truth, to discover new knowledge. A concentration of intellectual wealth boiling in a cauldron of intellectual energy that spits out new ideas and new techniques and new entrepreneurs and new processes and creates original wealth that allows an economy to grow and prosper in ways that we could have never imagined. There has not been a state in this nation that has reached the heights to which I aspire for Kentucky without that kind of a great institution. And we don't have one. It is my determination that the University of Kentucky will be one. And I will form a partnership with that institution to ensure that over time we get there. I do not call upon the General Assembly of Kentucky to pass one law. I call upon the people of Kentucky to make a continuing commitment to excellence in higher education. a commitment. What we talk about today is only the beginning. It is only laying the foundation. I call for a long-term commitment to excellence in all levels of higher education, and the commitment to developing a top 20 nationally recognized research institution here in Kentucky. Now, I understand that it is difficult sometimes for we as ordinary citizens to understand how it is that a great research university in Lexington will directly relate to our daily lives. And it will be slow and it will be subtle, but it will most assuredly be a fact. Had we in Kentucky made that commitment 40 years ago when North Carolina did, we would be able to see the results today. But we didn't make that commitment then. We settled for mediocrity, and we have mediocrity. And so part of my plan is to develop the framework in which the University of Kentucky can concentrate all of its energies on being that great research university. Another element of post-secondary education with which we're all familiar and we all understand is the baccalaureate programs, supplemented in many cases with master's degrees, to study the accumulated knowledge of the ages and to instill in our leaders and in our people the kind of mental skills and personal discipline and understanding of the magnitude of life that it requires to make our economy operate and our society stable and allow it to provide for us all that it has. We're familiar with that, and of the three levels, we're probably doing a better job of that in Kentucky than in the other two. All 8 of our universities provide that kind of education, and we have 19 private colleges and universities providing baccalaureate and in some cases master's degree education. We need more production. We need more efficiency. We've documented where it can be made more efficient. We need more accessibility. We need to use more technology. But of all the 3 areas, we're doing the best in that particular area. And there's a third area of post-secondary education that has evolved since World War II. The other 2 that I've talked about have been around for a long time. Not new. They've been here. But as our economy has changed, as our world has gotten more sophisticated, there has developed the need for community-based education to meet the needs of a region that needs to be responsive, needs to be flexible, needs to be community-oriented. It is generally described in this country as community college education. Not exactly the kind provided by the University of Kentucky community college system, but more accurately described as the combined offerings of Kentucky Tech and the UK community college system. In general, across this country, this system is united and almost invariably it is independent. Almost invariably it is independent because it is so different. Because its needs are different. Its mission is different. Universities by nature are slow to respond for good reason. Universities are the guardians of truth. Universities and the subjects that they deal with change slowly. History changes slowly. Basic science changes slowly. Chemistry and biology do not change much as it is taught in a university from year to year. Math changes hardly at all. Universities must be committed to preservation of truth. They must be resistant to the fads of the day. And so university faculties are very much involved in making sure that any change that occurs is a change based on truth and not on fashion. But technology changes daily. And community colleges need to be able to respond to the needs of communities which may be different from Paducah than it is to Pikeville. That's sort of the characteristic of community college type education in the United States. It has a variety of functions, 3 or 4 of which I might mention. One, obviously, is the preparation or the presentation of the first 2 years of a course of study designed to be transferred to a 4-year institution to earn a baccalaureate degree. A very, very important job of community college-based education, but certainly not the only job. That access is important, but I must remind you that there are, as I said, there are 27 other institutions in this Commonwealth providing that kind of education. So if community colleges didn't provide it, it would be there. Not that I'm advocating in any way that that role of the community colleges be diminished in any fashion. But there are other functions, remedial education for high school students that aren't fully prepared for college work, or more likely for non-traditional students that are coming back into the academic world after 10 or more years, and they need to brush up on their basic fundamentals. And community continuing education, individual courses designed to improve the quality of life of the citizens and the community, not normally directly related to a vocational or occupational course of study and not meant to be transferred to another institution. And then there comes that vast array of studies, of courses of study that has developed, the need for has developed in this country over the last 40 or 50 years, having to do with courses of study that are not required, that do not require a 4-year baccalaureate type of study to master. Generally 1 or 2-year courses in a variety of subjects that are provided at the community level. All the way from health-related professions to business skills, to office processes, to computers, to quasi-engineering programs, to sophisticated electronic courses of study. That whole array, which is generally called technical education, but which is primarily mental in character and in nature. And that is a very important role of the community college in this country. And if the community colleges don't provide it, it won't be provided. That is the unique role of the community colleges that must be preserved. Now in Kentucky, we've developed a bifurcated system. We have Kentucky Tech that started primarily as a manual arts institution and has evolved to partly fill that need that has developed over the last 50 years. And we have the community college system, originally envisioned as a program to provide the 2-year preparation to be transferred to a 4-year school. And they've moved into that field, and therein lies the problem. We have documented, regardless of how good that you think that the cooperation is, and I might say that in Paducah it's probably been better than in some other places. We have documented waste and duplication and competition and turf battles that have not been in the best interest of the people of this Commonwealth. It has not been the best use of the taxpayers' money, and I'm obligated to propose a better and more efficient system, which I propose. I talked to you about my obvious personal concern for the University of Kentucky. Let me talk to you about my demonstrated concern for the welfare of the community colleges. In the 8 years prior to my assuming this office, funding for community colleges in Kentucky relative to their comparative institutions in neighboring states had gone down 17%. I would conclude that during that 8 years, the community colleges did not have an effective advocate in Frankfort. Because in Kentucky, we decreased relative to what other states were doing for comparable institutions in their states in surrounding areas. We reduced funding by 17%. When I came into office, community colleges were funded at 75% of their benchmark institutions in surrounding states, while other universities were funded from 90 to 95 to 100% of their benchmark. Community colleges were funded at 75% of their benchmark. I submit to you, they did not have an effective advocate. I knew the importance of this kind of education, and even though I was presented with a budget that was over $100 million overextended, even though I'm presented with a situation where, delightfully so, we're in the process of cutting 6 taxes in Kentucky by over $300 million during the 4 years that I will serve you as governor in the first term. And I'm proud that we're able to do that. But the fact is, we don't have money to go out here and spend on new things. We don't have new money to spend on new things. We have to reallocate money. And so I presented basically a continuation budget to the General Assembly a little more than a year ago. As far as the universities themselves go, I proposed a modest inflationary-based increase. But knowing the need in community colleges, I proposed a 9% increase in community college funding in the first year and 6.5% in community college funding in the second year of my first biennium. That's an increase of $11.2 million. That increase brings benchmark funding in Kentucky from 75% to 83%. And my proposal will add another $11.7 million to the funding for community colleges that will bring their funding to 95%. I believe that I have demonstrated that I'm the individual that truly understands the importance of community colleges and Kentucky Tech, and I'm the governor that has proposed major increases in funding. Let me address some particular problems and then we'll get into discussion. As a politician, I'm sometimes used to debating people based on rhetoric, based on distortion, based on misinformation. I did not expect to debate major academic institutions in this Commonwealth based on distortions and misinformation, but I have in fact had to confront that. Officials of the University of Kentucky system of community colleges have informed student bodies that this move will endanger the accreditation of their institution. That is not true, and it is intellectually dishonest. And I will say that in front of anybody. To think that we would embark upon a course of this magnitude without checking the effect on the accreditation of these institutions would be ludicrous. Let me remind you that Paducah Community College is an accredited college by the Southern Association of Schools, secondary schools, and colleges. Not because you're a part of the University of Kentucky, but because this faculty and this staff and this academic offering has been judged by the accrediting association as adequate to meet the standards of a post-secondary educational institution. And my proposal changes that in no way. And in discussions with the association, they've said emphatically that as long as there's no change in the academic offering, as there's no change on the faculty, there's no change on campus, there will be no change in accreditation. And our proposal primarily involves changing a line on an organization chart. Currently, as represented by this chart, we have below the governor a board of regents, we have the regional universities. we have the University of Louisville, we have the University of Kentucky, and below the University of Kentucky, through the president, through the chancellor, we have 14 community colleges. And then over on the other side, we have state government. And the governor, secretary of the cabinet, the workforce development cabinet, a commissioner of Kentucky Tech. So we have, these two institutions are a part of a large bureaucracy. One bureaucracy, state government, the other bureaucracy, the University of Kentucky. It is a bureaucracy. It is a $1 billion establishment, and you're 8% of it. Community colleges constitute 8% of the budget of the University of Kentucky. You constitute 2/3 of its student body, but you constitute 8% of its budget. And our proposal is to take, as on this chart, is to take these two institutions and not merge them, but place them under the control of a much smaller bureaucracy, one that is on the same level as the University of Kentucky, the University of Louisville, and the Board of Regents, and give that very much smaller bureaucracy operational power over these two institutions so that they answer to the same source of authority. That's the fundamental purpose for doing this, so that we will have institutional cooperation, so that we will have institutional efficiency, so we will have one entity who knows exactly what its job is and has no agenda other than pursuing its job, and that job is community-based, responsive to industry, responsive to people, providing the needs of various regions of this Commonwealth as they differ from Pikeville to Paducah. Let me assure you, as to this individual institution and the engineering program that has been approved for this campus and this community will not be affected one bit. I will remind you that it was Paul Patton, the governor, that broke that log jam, just as I broke the log jam down at Hopkinsville to get the Hopkinsville Tech Center going, just as across this state we put more money into community college buildings in Hazard and in Ashland and in Prestonsburg and in Hopkinsville. It is Paul Patton that has demonstrated he understands the importance of these institutions, and he understood the importance of engineering education here in the Purchase area of Kentucky. So I am the champion, and it will not affect that. So let me get into a discussion here very quickly. Let me say that there's been lots of things that have been information has been just put out that is disconcerting to students, and let me assure you that every service that you're now receiving, you'll continue to receive. It's been said by people that you'll lose your scholarships. Not true. It's been said you'll lose your service access to the University of Kentucky Library. Not true. It has been said that you will lose other support services provided by the University of Kentucky. Not true. The University of Kentucky is here to serve all of the citizens of this Commonwealth. It is not an entity in and of itself free to take away or dispense its services to whom that it would like or dislike, or out of revenge for something it doesn't like. It wouldn't do that anyway. If you look at the literature related to the University of Kentucky's Commonwealth Library, it talks about how that it will be a service to all of Kentucky, the community colleges, the regional universities, the public libraries, and all of Kentucky, and it will be. But just in case there is any question, I can assure you that my law will require the University of Kentucky to continue to provide all the services that it currently provides to these institutions, so long as these institutions feel like that they are necessary. So we'll put a stop to that question right now. The University of Kentucky will continue to serve all of the people and all of the institutions of this Commonwealth, because it is an institution that is owned by the taxpayers of Kentucky. So with that, let me rest my voice a minute, Do you have microphones set up, Dr. O'Hare, or just want to go from the floor?
There are microphones out there, sir.
I can't. Are there microphones somewhere? If you would accumulate at the microphones, we'll try to take as many comments and questions are on each side. I'm running a little late, but I'm going to, since this is my last stop of the day, I'm going to add 15 more minutes, and we'll go for about 30 more minutes, if that's all right with you all. We'll start on this side, and then we'll switch to that side.
Yes, Governor, I'm glad you're here. My name is Karen Mason. I'm a 34 single mother of 2. We heard many things that you've said when they changed Kara to take over our school system. Since I have a daughter in school, I faced Kara and has had a lot of problems. There's been a lot of reform with the promise it would up education. Thus now my daughter's in a private school. When she takes the public scholastic test, she excels above the average public student. Now, you're telling me you want to separate UK from my transcript to keep me in my community education. I don't necessarily want to stay in my community forever. If I take a Paducah Community College degree to someplace in Pikesville or Louisville, I assure you they can barely spell it, let alone pronounce it. If it's stamped University of Kentucky, it gives me... Please do not think that I am ending what I have to say, and I do respect what you have to say. But when you separate Kentucky from community college, yes, you do make it a school of research, but we've got 14 community colleges across this state. A lot of us cannot afford to go to the University of Kentucky. You bring that education to us, the working people, a single mother. If it's up there that I have to go to get to the community UK, then I have to be able to afford it. You separate a working woman from being able to take a transcript in somewhere or to even transfer to the University of Kentucky after 2 beneficial and very excellent years here, and then you say to me this is for the benefit of Kentucky. I cannot agree, and I believe I speak for the majority of the people here. And over and above that, I hope you haven't pre-made up your mind, because from what I'm hearing, I hope you've come here to consider us at heart. When I go home, sir, I live in a small mobile home with a small car. Maybe you do not know what that's like, but I hope to raise the level of education for myself to benefit my children and their children and their children. And you deeply make me resent and anger what you say, because I have heard what you said. I have studied what you have to say. I have followed what you have to say. And it does not benefit me unless I want to stay in this community. And I assure you, sir, it may be that I do not. A community college here is an excellent community college. I beg you not to take UK off and not to have pre-made up your mind. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, it's very difficult to deal with emotionalism. I have to deal with facts. But let me submit to you that across the river, they have community colleges that aren't a part of their major university, and it seems to serve them very well. As I said, every other state has managed to get by without this kind of a system. Over on this side, please.
Governor Patton, I couldn't help but notice that the 2+2 engineering school was not mentioned in your agenda. In Paducah, that's a jugular issue. When you said that universities were slow to respond, it's been our experience that the University of Kentucky responded to our needs very quickly. We didn't run into any slowness till we got to the bureaucracy in the state government. Why would we ask for more?
Certainly that document is not intended to address every detail, but rather is to outline the structure whereby reform and improvement can be made. I would again remind you that I was the one that broke the logjam that allowed the engineering program to proceed. I certainly understand the need for that program, and it certainly will not be affected. Let's go to this side.
Governor Patton, I was one of the 4 community college students on your steering committee when we met with you in December and told you that we too were not happy with some of the things in our educational system, but by no means do we want to be separated from the University of Kentucky. I stand here with 850 signatures of tax-paying, voting citizens of Kentucky who are in opposition of separating from the University of Kentucky. The reason I came to the University of Kentucky was to get my start so that I may transfer off. It's very expensive. You know, if we could all afford to go to a university, most of us probably would, but we simply cannot. And part of getting our associate's degree is having that UK stamp on it. I plan on transferring out of state, and maybe my credits will transfer, but will they even accept me? I've been accepted to an all-girls school in Missouri. You know, I seriously doubt if I had not had that UK stamp with it, that they would even consider me at just a community college that had no association with UK. I have one question for you. I've looked through some of your material, like your scope committees and things like that. Are you going to have student ex officio members on those as well?
On the Board of Regents of this new institution, it will be set up like the regional universities such as Murray State are set up. There will be 8 board members appointed by the governor. There would be a student board member, a staff board member, and a faculty board member, if that was your question.
Yes.
Governor Patton, I moved here to this great state 5 years ago and decided to further my education. And at that time, I had a wide choice, thanks to the wonderful education program. I could have went to the technical college, PCC, affiliated with UK, or Murray State. Either one, I had no ties either way. I chose PCC because of the fact that they are so accredited, and some of their accreditation comes from the fact that they are associated with UK. Now, I made this choice, and I was so impressed with your speech, and the fact that you chose to say that you gave us choice. Well, you took mine away, because I graduate in December. Now, I can't very well switch colleges. I graduate, and you will take my UK off of my diploma. You spoke of choices. What choice do I have?
Again, the value of your education to you will be directly related to what you learn, and that's directly a function of what is taught on this campus by this faculty. This faculty, this campus is accredited because of this faculty and not because it is administered by the University of Kentucky.
Governor, my name is Hayden Bloodworth. I wish I could welcome you to the campus that I am a part of, but this is not my campus. I'm an instructor of heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, refrigeration at West Kentucky Tech. I was born in this city. I have been educated in this city. I went to Paducah Junior College before it was PCC. I went to PCC. I've gone to Murray. I've attended class at Eastern. I have a daughter who graduated from UK. She also graduated law school at Eastern University, Chase Law School. I have 2 sisters-in-law graduate with honors at UK. I've been educated in city schools and county schools, and I believe it gives me a little different perspective than some. And let me say that there are people that are in this school that are friends of mine. They are faculty. I could name you a dozen. Some I've went to school with, some I go to church with. There are people on your board that I go to church with. One of your main fundraising people at PCC, Mr. Denton, who has helped you raise $8 million or so for some project you've got going on here. I attend church with him, sing in the choir with his wife. So I know a lot of people that are very dear friends to me here. I've taken classes from them, and I respect them all. It gives me, I think, a chance to look at some of the things that perhaps others maybe have a little bit narrower scope of vision. And let me say that from my point of view, I see it narrowed down to three things. It's 3 A's, and I wrote them down here so I would not forget. Accreditation. The students here at Paducah Community College's credits for all the courses that they take should transfer to any other school in the state of Kentucky. And I don't think there should be a problem in doing it. But there are many problems in doing it, because there is a vice versa to that. The classes and courses from other schools within the state should transfer here. And there lie some problems with that. And it is especially a problem with our students getting credit at this school. And I feel that could be, the ways could be greased somewhat to accommodate that. Accountability. I believe that we, the faculty at these schools and the administrations, should be more accountable for the way we spend the money. The students and the public deserves to have more for their money. We should look carefully at things that we build, because in many cases I believe we take away from things we already have built, and we do not have them funded properly in the present. We have buildings that I question whether it is in my system, the Kentucky Tech system, or the community college system, or the UK system, or any system. I question some of the building that has gone on, because I know for a fact that in our system we have problems with funding the classes that we already have in the buildings that are already built. This is true, I believe, in all of the systems. And so I believe we have to be very careful of building a huge gymnasium, a huge football stadium, or other buildings whenever we are not properly funding the programs that we already have. I believe any professor, any teacher anywhere would probably agree with this. And if the students only knew how hard it was sometimes to get classroom supplies, I believe they would be probably shocked. The last is association. All of the post-secondary schools should more closely associate with one another, not less, but more. I want to tell you right now, and all of you here, I'm proud of the school I teach at. My students are as good as your students. My students are as smart as your students. We are not your poor cousin. We are not the poor Votech school down the street. We do very well, thank you. And we have a mission, and that is to train the workforce of the state of Kentucky. It is something that most people don't realize. We had to go through a huge change in the last 5 or 6 years, a big change. It was an enormous change. There was not any press about it. They basically said 3 schools in the state of Kentucky will meet, and they picked the schools, and I happened to be one of them, and I thought, what in the world am I doing here? Because what we had to do was completely change technical education within the state. And we were given that charge. We were the pilot. West Kentucky Tech did a lot of the work, and all of the different instructors in the school, all of the administrators in the school, and even the janitors in the school were involved in this change. And we did it. One of the things that we built into it, we know it's not perfect, one of the things that we built into it was the possibility of change. One of the things that we depend on is the community colleges assisting us in this change. And we look very, very longingly at that change. And we hope that it does come. We look to associate with this school. We will be the neighbor of this school, no matter what the outcome of this conflagration or whatever you would wish to call it. We will be your neighbor, and we will work with you. And what I bring here today to all of these students and to you is the commitment from that school that we offer an open hand to this school in doing anything we can to help to make whatever changes that are needed to bring the students the services that they need. We don't offer this hand from above to pull you up. We are not trying to pull you down. We are trying to help you along. We offer this with an open heart and in hopes that you, all of the students, faculty, staff, and all of the personnel having to do with all of post-secondary education will take it with an open mind, because we offer it that way. This is something that probably surprises a lot of folks, but we don't look upon ourselves probably the way some people do. Vocational technical education is very important to us. My students are important to me, and I think everybody should know that. Matter of fact, a lot of our students, you need to know, come from here. People that I come down here on my lunch hour and play table tennis with, which is, we don't have a facility up there, and a lot of people probably seen me here, and I do that whenever I have a lunch hour. I come down here, and some of those people from PCC are now my students. There's a lot to be said for more coordination, and I thank you for your time.
Appreciate your comments. And I think you illustrate something that we as a people should do, and that's provide proper level of respect for all levels of education and all different kinds of work that it requires to make our economy work. Let's talk blunt about it. There are some people that look down on people that make their living and get their hands dirty doing it. I'm not one of them. I made my living for 20 years by getting my hands dirty. And it took a lot of brain power to do that. I would remind you that a surgeon is a manual labor that uses the knowledge of his mind transmitted through his hands to save lives, and they get a little bit bloody and messy in doing it, but they deserve dignity and respect. And the fact of the matter is that we do have institutions of higher education in this Commonwealth that do not accord other institutions the proper respect. We have institutions that don't give the community colleges proper respect and won't accept their work. The University of Kentucky does not accept all of the work of the community colleges toward a degree. The young man from Somerset that called in about the 2 courses that he took, thinking that they would transfer to the Lexington campus towards his baccalaureate degree, and discovered that he had to take basically the same courses over. They transfer, they just don't count. And that's a problem with all of our institutions, and one of the problems that we want to address. Another comment over on the left.
May I ask you a question, Governor Patton? How would you feel if all of your resources were taken away from you for your learning? Huh?
I would be awfully upset.
Look at these bright...
I would be terribly upset.
No, hold on. Listen. Now, look at these bright, promising people. I mean, look at them. They have a future. You have a future. Everyone does. Now, you're going to have to understand that these people want to keep coming to this school, okay?
And certainly I support that, and I want to provide more financial resources so that this school will be able to provide a better education to more students in this part of the state, and that's a part of my objective. Yes, sir.
Mr. Governor, my name is Jason Russell. I'm a very proud student of the University of Kentucky at Paducah Community College. And my question is this. In your speech, you mentioned a turf battle between the four-year universities and the two-year universities. If you separate the community colleges from the University of Kentucky, what makes you think that this turf battle won't become worse? Because I'm reminded of a very famous saying, united we stand, divided we fall.
I haven't gotten into the rest of our plan in detail because I don't think that's exactly what you all are here to talk about, but in fact, a part of our effort will be to restructure the Council on Higher Education to give it the authority and the teeth that it needs to eliminate these turf battles. Somebody's got to be in charge. It needs to be the Council of Higher Education, and that is a very important part of our program that we haven't discussed a lot today. Yes, sir. Or yes, ma'am.
Governor, first I would like to
see.
thank you for taking the opportunity to see what we have to say, because many times politicians make decisions without asking the people that are affected, and so for that I thank you. But I would like to say that I have many, many concerns about your plan. You made in your opening speech, you made some comments that said that other states got by, so why can't we? Well, Kentucky doesn't want to get by. Okay. I have a lot of concerns about, you say that the sources will still be available to us. Our library is one of the main things that makes us accredited, and it is solely from University of Kentucky. And I would hope that you could absolutely promise us that that would remain. My question to you, for my own personal sake, is I came here in 1995 and about to finish in the summer. I'm going to have to finish up in the summer. And I came under the impression that my diploma would have the University of Kentucky, so what happens to me? Have I been misled all this time, and I'm not going to get that after I've worked all this time? And you said in your opening speech as well that you'd face the truth and you take it. Well, if you'll face the truth, Paducah Community College belongs under the University of Kentucky.
Again, I will submit to you that the value of your education is directly related to the staff that you have here at Paducah and what you learn in that education, and that is what is important.
Wait, Governor, I want you to answer my question. Will my diploma have the University of Kentucky if I get it in the summer of '97? Or will it not? That's what I want to know.
It is our intention right now to make this change effective about July the 1st of this year.
So I have been here for 2 years under the impression, and you as governor, the person that I'm elected into office, will take that from me. And I just want you to know this is still a democracy, and you are still supposed to do what the people want, and I hope that every person in this room over the voting age will elect you out.
Governor Patton, my name is John Voss. I'm a member of the faculty here at Paducah Community College. I started out as a military product, went to Hopkinsville Community College, allowed to transfer to the Southeast Missouri State University, where I achieved my baccalaureate degree. I achieved my master's degree at Murray State University, and I don't have a lot of emotional ties to this at this point, but I was also able to obtain additional graduate hours above a master's degree only from the University of Kentucky by their providing special distance learning methods to us in order to gain that. Murray State could not provide that for me as a regional university. I also teach in a technical degree program here at the community college. One of the things that very concerns me is that in order to be responsive to the needs of the community, I have to discuss with business and industry leaders what the needs are of this area and try to change curriculum to meet that need. When we had degree programs that were in effect, it was very easy to change certain courses within that curriculum to meet those needs. 3 years ago, the Council on Higher Education, as you recall, cut 14 degree programs at the community colleges across the state. it became very difficult for us to respond to those needs by the cutting of those programs. My question to you is, what do you think will be changed so that this new governing board would be any different than the Council on Higher Education in cutting those types of degree programs or not allowing us to develop new ones? That's where we need to be more responsive, as you have outlined, and creating a new bureaucratic process for that will cause us greater time in responding to those needs, I feel.
Well, in fact, we will address that particular problem, because you're right. The community colleges in Kentucky Tech need to be able to respond faster than does a big university. And so we will have a special section dealing with the approval of course offerings by the community colleges and Kentucky Tech that would allow it to be more responsive. And I think I'm being run off the stage. Is that?
You're welcome to stay as long as you want your staff out.
Well, my staff said we're going to have to go on to our next appointment. Let me thank you very much. This is a very important discussion in Kentucky. Again, what we as a people need to do is make a commitment to excellence in higher education. That's what I'm trying to lead. Thank you very much. George.